been a technologist since 1974, since joining academia in UCC in the mid-90s, I've been researching the use of digital technology, and more latterly, the use of artificial intelligence. However, I'm also an educator, and I suppose the genesis of my interest in digital technology in education, and I was an innovator from the get-go in this, in the mid-90s, by the way, was the fact that I noticed a change in my students, in their ability to comprehend, to problem solve. It was a general problem that I saw increasing over the years, and when I attended conferences and spoke with colleagues internationally, they too noticed a change in their students. And it took me a long while, and what triggered it was Nicholas Carr's book, The Shallows. And I realized that maybe technology was at the root cause of this. It was, philosopher of science Thomas Kuhn called it a puzzle, a scientific puzzle. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on, and a hell of a lot of research, which I did in one long time. And I think that in 2015, when the Teaching Council of Ireland invited me to speak on such matters at their annual conference, it provided me with the motivation to write a paper and to catalogue the scientific findings at that point. And the current version was updated in 2019.
Right. So you're referring to, of course, the critical review of digital technology in education, and that should give policymakers and educators pause.
Exactly. Yeah, and in it, I'd say, well, technology does bring benefits to society and in the classroom, but like all technologies, it does have a dark side. It does have a downside.
Sure.
And it's not as, and the people making claims for its efficacy in education, have a lacuna or a blind side to the downside or its limitations, right, which are significant.
Absolutely. So we'll get to these. Now, Simon, you coming from the coalface of education, as it were, at a primary level, what are your views? What are your observations against the backdrop of your studies and your guidance of educators these days in digital technology in education?
Hi, Teresa, and thanks very much for having me on your webinar, and really, really interesting topic. One I really enjoy talking about. My background is in digital technology as well. I qualified as a computer scientist back just at the turn of the millennium, but carried on, I suppose, after I didn't really work for very long in technology, but became a teacher around 2002, 2003, and very quickly found myself sort of in the midst of that big transformation from, let's say, the generation before technology in education to the I suppose generation after technology, which was around, I suppose, the mid noughties, let's say, when I think 2005 there was a crux where technology just wasn't used in primary schools, and kind of beyond around 2008, almost every classroom had the use of technology in it on a daily basis. So it was a very quick but also very slow beginning. But once it kicked off, it kind of kicked off quite quickly. But I suppose coming from the technology background, I absolutely would agree with Tom's observations that technology is just not a silver bullet as for education. It has its place. It can be a fantastic tool to do things that you can't do without it. But it also isn't a replacement for the things that you could do without it. If that sentence makes any sense.
a healthy balance you would advocate?
I've been describing technology. I know the various people in power, the government and NCSC or NCTE or whatever they're called now, would call it a resource. I would say more as a methodology, and I feel any methodology, if overused, doesn't work. But particularly, so I kind of feel it's when used well, it can be good for learning, but it isn't, as Tom's saying, the magic solution either. It does have that dark side.
I suppose really it is the tool. It is a tool as opposed to the master. But as I'm sure on your staff, you've got that intergenerational gap between those longest standing members of staff and those newcomers, and you begin to see the change even in teaching, approaches to teaching among our young, that's beginning to take root. Yeah.